Fouling is a part of the NBA that is seldom talked about. The majority of the time, players aren't trying to foul the opposing team, as it leads to easy free throws and points. The low percentage of times that it's good to foul is maybe when a player would get a very easy bucket, so it's better to put them at the line, or at the end of the game when the losing team is hoping that the other team's players will miss their free throws, and that the losing team will hit all of their shots. Either way, no matter the reason for why a player has committed a foul, nobody wants to be forced out of the game for committing too many fouls, as this benefits no one. Everybody knows the rule in the NBA: 6 fouls and you're out of the game. But what if this wasn't actually a rule, and there was a way for players to commit unlimited fouls and remain in the game until the clock runs out? Well, this actually is a thing, as there's a little known rule in the NBA that allows players to stay in the game even if they committed 6 or more fouls. But this rule can only be used in very specific situations, and today I'm going to give you an example of that. On February 4th, 2014, the Los Angeles Lakers were facing up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. At the time, the Lakers were a pretty bad team, even though they had NBA legends Steve Nash, Pau Gasol, and Kobe Bryant. However, these players were all getting pretty old, and they regularly had injuries, which left every single one of them out against the Cavaliers. The Lakers were also missing a few other players, and they enter the game with only 8 guys suited up to play. Entering a game with 8 players isn't ideal, as it's a major disadvantage because players are likely to be tired, not being able to play to the best of their ability. And another reason that having 8 players enter a game is a bad idea is the fact that if a couple of your players foul out, then you'll be in a very bad spot. That's exactly what happened to the Lakers on February 4th, 2014, against the Kyrie Irving-led Cleveland Cavaliers. With a few minutes left in the game, the Lakers were down to only 5 active players on the court, because Chris Kaman had fouled out, and Jordan Farmer and Nick Young got some in-game injuries. With only 5 players left on the court, the Lakers were bound to be pretty exhausted. However, they were actually leading the game. So, with about 3.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Lakers center Robert Sacre got his 6th foul of the game, which naturally would have forced him off of the court and disqualified from playing for the rest of the night. This wasn't a typical night though. If Sacre had to sit out, this would mean that the Lakers would only have 4 players on the court, which I think would actually be pretty cool to see. But I guess the NBA doesn't agree with my opinion because they don't want this to happen. In the NBA rulebook, there's a rule that no team may have less than 5 players, meaning that if a player gets his 6th foul and there's no player to replace him, the player who committed their 6th foul is actually forced to stay in the game. If this happens, the player is given a personal team foul, and the team actually gets a technical foul as well. So this means that even though Sacre had committed his 6th foul, he was forced to keep playing because there was no one to replace him, and no team is allowed to have under 5 players on the court at any time. This also means that if Sacre got injured and could not play, that Chris Kaman would have to step in the game, as the next most recent player to be fouled out has to re-enter the game if the player sustains injuries. Lakers coach at the time, Mike D'Antoni, said that if Sacre got hurt, his next option was to put the injured Jordan Farmer back into the game as a dummy player to, I guess, just stand there the whole time, which would have been quite amusing. Luckily, that didn't end up happening, and the Lakers also ended up winning the game. Sacre also didn't commit another foul, so he ended the game with 6 fouls, which is nothing out of the ordinary. I'm not sure if this situation has actually ever happened since, as it's definitely a strange one. I think the NBA should allow there to be less than 5 players on the court at a time. I think it'd make the game pretty interesting in the extremely rare occasions that it did occur. Do you think the NBA should allow a rule that lets players get unlimited fouls? Should the NBA allow teams to play with less than 5 players? Let me know what you think below, and remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Thanks for watching.